Hey guys, I'm back with another video. Now, I know that the layout is a little bit different, but let's get right into it. So, we're back speaking about what the America's Next Top Model documentary featuring Tyra and the judges that were on the show, and some of the models that were also on the show. And what happened, I didn't know. They went on Sherri Shepherd's talk show as well. And she had them sit down and they had some more tea to pour, honey. So you have Nigel Barker, Jay Manuel, and Miss J. Alexander appear together on Sherri Shepherd for the first time since the reality check documentary dropped. And first thing first, Sherri brought all of the judges out in order to discuss the documentary, and immediately the conversation turned accountability, their firing, and their complicated history with Tyra Banks. Nigel talked about how nearly 20 years later, the time finally felt right to tell his side of the story. And he admitted that a lot of what happened back then simply would not fly today. Now, I watched the whole entire segment and I just felt that Nigel is a bit, if I want to say anybody out of all the 3 has a little bit of more of the, like, the mess, it's coming from Nigel, and I'm surprised because he's kinda two-faced and he's kinda, like, straddling the fence with the fact that, well, I'm absolving myself because, again, just like how Tyra was saying, it was back then, but now it couldn't play because Sherri asked him a question pertaining to, "What if that was your daughter? How would you feel, and how would, if she was on the show, what would you have said during that scene where the young lady was being filmed in a sexual position with a guy?" And he was like, "Oh, well, I just felt like, now, oh, that would not fly. That would not fly." But it flew then. I wasn't really supporting how he came with that. I was really in disagreement with how he tried to come across and give his side of the story, and how what part he played in that part when it happened on the show. And all 3 of them did confess to the fact that they had nothing to do with production. Absolutely nothing to do with production. It was all the executive producer, which was Tyra, and the other producers of the show that agreed for the things to go out, and they didn't see the show until we all saw the show. So that was kind of their cover in their butt when a lot of the stuff was talked about. Some of the questions that Sherri Shepherd asked them about what happened and what was their feeling when some of the negative things that happened to the girls happened on the show. Now, I'm not sure if anybody knows, but Miss J had a stroke about 4 or 5 years ago, which was horrible. He had a stroke back in 2022, and he says that Tyrant never even visited him since he's had his stroke in 2022, but the other judges have visited him. They're very close friends, and a few celebrities have visited him, including like Angela Bassett. And Tyra still has not visited him since he had his stroke. And he stated that he's been knowing Tyra since she was like 15, since she first got into the modeling industry. And I think it's unfortunate. I'm not here to judge Tyra. I don't know what's going on in her life, but if that's your friend, I mean, I think you could have did a little bit more than a phone call, Tyra. But hey, that's just my opinion. Now, Jay Manuel continued to speak a bit highly of Tyra. That's why I was surprised when Nigel was the one being a little bit messy. But he spoke very highly still about Tyra. He really didn't want to get into the mess. He was trying to stay neutral. Like, look, I already told all my stuff. I spilled my tea on the documentary. I'm really not interested in going in and talking anymore about Tyra. But one of the things that still stood out was that he was still hurt behind the fact that him and Tyra do not have a relationship. And again, how she played him during the show after he wanted to leave, she kind of pulled back and stopped talking to him unless the cameras were rolling. And he also stated how he had such an issue with the part in the show when they did like what he considered blackface. So basically, one of the competitions was that the models would swap races, and a couple other models, Tyra had them do blackface. Well, where they were fully Caucasian models, and she put makeup on them to look like they were African American or black, whatever, African, what have you. And Jay Manuel said he had a really big issue with that. Now, as far as Jay, I think he is from South Africa. His family dealt with apartheid. I'm not sure who is the melanated person in his family, if it's his mother or his father, but I feel like it was probably his mother. And he said he felt really uncomfortable with that. And that is kind of like how what he alluded to the fact as to why he did leave the show. And again, like I said, he was being very neutral on the Sherri Shepherd show. Now, something that a lot of people did talk about as far as the show, they felt like Sherri Shepherd was defending Tyra. And I just think she was being a good host. I feel like she was trying to be neutral. It wasn't expected of Sherri Shepherd to take a side. She wasn't on America's Next Top Model. She wasn't a judge. She's a talk show host, and she's just giving her opinion and trying to give an even balance and be fair toward Tyra and the judges, because she doesn't have a dog in the fight. And so she did ask some questions on behalf of Tyra that were more positive toward Tyra, which I didn't think there was a problem with, but a lot of people had some talked a lot about that on social media. However, she's just being a talk show host slash journalist, if you will. So, with that being said, the overall energy on the show was a mix of truth telling from the judges and context sharing from Sherri. The judges didn't villainize Tyra. In fact, Nigel and Jay both said the documentary was about clarity, not attacking Tyra. But they were honest about how the relationships did deteriorate. Oh, and really quickly, Sherri Shepherd did ask them if Tyra invited them back on the show to be judges, would they go back on the show? And Miss J was pretty much the only one that was like, for a nice penny, if the coin is right, I'll be back. So that's pretty much what was said on Sherri Shepherd's show when she had all of the judges. It was a great follow up to the documentary to see them in a different light, because I'm pretty sure they did the documentary about a year ago, and to have them watch it and come back and give their commentary on it and see how they still feel right now was a pretty good opportunity to see. I think Sherri did a great job. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll be back with another video.